testing is crucial for production grade workflows, which is why in Kestra 0.23, we've introduced unit testing. When you first open up Kestra, you'll see a new test icon on the left-hand side. When you select that, you'll see all of your unit tests available here. Now, I've already got one ready to go here, so let's have a look at what this looks like. If I press on the little dots, I can press edit, and this will show me what our unit test will look like. Now, this test has two different test cases. We can see it's going to use the flow ETL daily products to BigQuery inside of the namespace company.team. Now, each of these test cases will run independently, and as you can see here, they've got fixtures as well. So let's have a look to understand what's going on here. To understand what's going on, we should have a look at the workflow that we have here. Now, I'm going to have a quick look here at the topology view to help us understand what's going on. Now, to start with, this workflow is going to send a Slack message, and it's going to send a message somewhere. We don't necessarily want that to happen during the testing. It's then going to download a file, and it's then going to transform that using an expression here. After that, it's also then going to transform it to uppercase, and then it's going to load it into BigQuery. Now, I don't want to load into BigQuery every single time I test this. In fact, I just want to test these three tasks in the middle here to make sure they are doing the right thing to the data. So if we head over to the tests tab, we can actually go and have a look at our tests and understand if this is working as expected. We've got a fixture here that's going to basically mock the Slack message and the BigQuery task. And then we're going to just check that the output that is generated from one of those tasks is what we would expect it to be. In the second task, we're doing something similar where we don't want it to send the Slack message and we don't want it to load into BigQuery, but we also don't want it to fetch from the API. And instead, we're going to give it a mock output of what we want it to do for the next task. So it means we're just testing one task here. We're just testing to see, does it transfer this to uppercase without having to do anything with downloading any of the data, converting it into the appropriate format, and then turning it to uppercase. So this helps us to test that individual tasks are working in isolation to one another. Now, to run this test, if I go back to the test view, I can actually press the run button here. So when I press run, what we'll see is it's going to run both of the tests. It gives us both test cases. I can see the assertion that's happened here. So we can see that it didn't send the Slack message. It didn't load it into BigQuery, it didn't fetch from the API, but it did in fact compare this, made it uppercase, and then checked that the value was the same. We can see here the assertion did pass. Now let's have a look at the other one where it's just skipping the Slack message and the BigQuery part. So we can see here that these are the tasks that skipped and the assertion was still successful. Now, we can actually view these executions as well. So here, we're looking at this execution just like you would a normal execution, but instead, this is a test. And you can see there's a label here to say that this is a test. So we can see here that the Slack message and the BigQuery part were successful despite the fact we didn't ask them to run. And we can see if we go to outputs here that the BigQuery and the Slack message don't have anything to them because they were just told not to run. Same for the extract here, and we can see that we've given it an output value for the transform to product names task so that we can test that transform to uppercase. We can also test that other task. So here we can see that just the BigQuery and the load there were mocks. Everything else ran as expected. So in the outputs tab, we can see it got the full JSON that we expected from the web. Here it's got the full data from that, so that's actually different to our previous test case, but when we just want to test that this task is just converting things to uppercase, we don't really care what the data is, as long as the data before and the data afterwards are different and we know what that data should look like. So this is a really great way for being able to test that things are working without having to create loads of spam messages in Slack, constantly load data into BigQuery. There's nothing worse than just creating loads of spam when you just wanted to test that one task worked. So hopefully this will give you a good insight into testing inside of Kestra. I'd love to hear in the comments below how you're going to test your workflows in Kestra.